This guide is approved by the Viper.
Hello and welcome to this week's Zero to Hero video where we'll be looking at the Franks. So hopefully you'll find this video interesting and hopefully you'll learn something as well. The Franks are a cavalry civilization and they have the best paladins in the game. Their bonuses are as follows. Castles cost 25% less. Their knights have an extra 20% hit points. Their farm upgrades are absolutely free. And their team bonus is that knights have an extra +2 line of sight. The Franks don't actually have that many bonuses compared to other civilizations, but they are powerful bonuses and they do give the Frankish knights a very good edge. As I said, they do have the best paladins in the game, and you'll see why very shortly. The Franks' infantry line is full. They've got halberdier and champion available, though the champions are very rarely seen by Frank players. Champions are very slow moving and they are weaker than the extra beefy Frankish paladin that they have, so they don't really make a very logical choice, even though all of the infantry blacksmith upgrades are available. It's much more common to see halberdier played, especially in the later game when the lack of gold becomes an issue. They do however lack squires, so their infantry is always going to be quite slow moving. The archery range is one of the Franks' weakest points. Their Imperial archers and cavalry archers are pretty much useless. I mean, they lack thumbering, they lack Parthian tactics, they lack bracer and ring archer armour. However, in the Imperial Age, they can create hand cannoneer once they've researched chemistry at the university. And this can be a good option if your opponent is creating a lot of infantry, especially halberdier to counter your cavalry, as hand cannoneers do a lot of damage against infantry units. They can also create fully upgraded crossbowmen in the Castle Age, aside from thumbering, which may be worthwhile upgrading if you've made a feudal rush with archers. However, in a lot of situations, it's unlikely that the Frank players will touch archers at all. Moving on to the stable, and this is the place where the best heavy cavalry in the game is produced, the Frankish paladin. With the 20% increase to hit points that the Franks get, and with all of the blacksmith upgrades available, it leaves them with a paladin that has 192 hit points, 18 attack and 7 pierce armour. It's a really formidable unit. This is about all that the Frank stable actually has going for it though. Heavy cavalry is definitely their forte. Aside from that though, their light cavalry is pretty bad, and they don't have access to camels either. I mean, the Franks don't have bloodlines in order to balance their 20% knight HP bonus. But that means that the HP bonus only applies to the knights, which means that the scout cavalry and light cavalry don't benefit from any extra HP at all, and this leaves their light cavalry falling behind a lot of civilizations that do have bloodlines or even hussar available. The Franks' siege workshop is pretty average. They can upgrade all of their base siege just once, but they do lack both the siege onager and the siege ram. Capped rams and bombard cannons can still be really effective though if they are protected by massed cavalry for instance. The castle for the Franks has one major bonus, and that's the cheapness of it, costing just 488 stone instead of the usual 650. This allows the Franks to play very aggressively by doing a castle push, giving them good map control when combined with their fast moving knights. Their unique unit, the Throwing Axeman, is not seen all that often however. It's a short ranged unit that does melee damage and has an attack bonus against buildings. The Throwing Axeman is notably weak against infantry with high melee armour, onagers and archers using hit and run micro tactics. This can make them very vulnerable, and as such make them much more of a defensive unit, dealing with battering rams very easily and other anti-archer units such as skirmishers. The Franks' unique unit also gives them a big upper hand in maps where there is very little gold, as the gold cost for the elite Throwing Axeman is very low and they deal very well with other trash units. Their unique tech, Bearded Axe, gives the Throwing Axeman an extra +1 range, which will give them a total of 4 or 5 if upgraded to elite. Finally, the Frankish Dock. A pretty fleshed out navy is available here, with all but the elite cannon galleon available. However, it's worth noting that the lack of bracer is a big negative to the Franks' galleons, lacking the extra attack and range that the majority of civilizations will have. They can, however, upgrade to fast fire and heavy demolition ship if they like, and these could be viable options in situations where you want to quickly take over the water from an opponent who hasn't upgraded to war galley or galleon yet, or even when facing mast fire ships from Aztec players, for instance. The Franks can Dark Age rush, and often it can be common to see this in a 1v1. Trishing can allow players time to wall up and execute a fast castle, and this can be a good idea as it will mean that they are able to make knights more quickly. They can also go for a feudal rush and go for a fast feudal on 22 population if they wish. In the Feudal Age, the Franks can create archers if they're aiming to go for a faster castle time. Archers can also be a good choice if your opponent has very easily harassable wood or gold. Whilst their archers can be upgraded to crossbow in the Castle Age, it's more common to see Frank players going for scouts in Feudal. Not only are they aided by their farm bonus, but this means that they will build their economy more food heavy rather than wood heavy, which will lead well into creating knights in the Castle Age. If you're in a pocket position, or even on a very closed map, then you should be fast castling and skipping straight to Feudal in order to go for knights in the Castle Age. If you're playing in a 1v1 for instance on an open map like Arabia, and you have got an easily wallable map, then don't be afraid to go for a Dark Age rush, wall up and go for a fast castle and produce some really strong knights. Once into the Castle Age, the Franks can upgrade to crossbow if they previously feudal rushed with archers, and they can upgrade to light cavalry if they've got a lot of scouts left from their feudal scout rush. Of course, the Franks are much better at this stage for going knights. Their 20% HP bonus is effectively giving them free bloodlines in the Castle Age, and even more in the Imperial Age once you've upgraded to Cavalier and Paladin. Upgrading their armour is a must, and this will give them a lot of extra resistance to town centre fire when raiding. If your opponent is locked inside of their base, and your knight raiding is going well, then you could also consider taking advantage of the cheaper castles and playing very aggressively by placing a forward castle to finish things off. However, if things are roughly even, then it's a better idea to build another 2 town centres, as supporting knights takes a lot of economy, and even more to pay for the expensive Cavalier and Paladin upgrades once you reach the Imperial Age. So 3 or even 4 town centres is definitely a must if you are going to be going to the later stages of the game. If you're under a lot of pressure in the Castle Age, and you're starting to sort of fall behind, then a defensive castle can also work well. You'll be able to create throwing axemen to help defend, and as I said earlier, due to their low gold cost, they're usually a very good value for money choice. If you're on a map that has very little gold, then the throwing axemen also works great, as they don't cost much gold at all, and they counter enemy trash very effectively. In the Imperial Age, Frank players really want to focus on getting Cavalier and Paladin researched. The Frankish Paladin is really just too strong to ignore, and when it's in combination with siege and other trash units, it can be really powerful. You can take a lot of map control, and once the +4 defense is upgraded from the blacksmith, you'll be able to take a lot of punishment from arrow fire too, making them an excellent raiding unit. If your opponent is making a lot of pikemen or halberdier to counter your paladins, then it's viable to create throwing axemen to help deal with them, or even to make heavy scorpions if your opponent is likely to be making a lot more infantry too. Frank players should try and invest the majority of their gold into paladins though, as these are the units that will get the most work done. Upgrading your economy is really important too. Of course, you'll have your farms upgraded for free, but never forget your wood upgrades. They are one of the most important upgrades that you can do, as having a lot of wood income is really much the sort of stepping stone into creating all of those important buildings and all the farms that you need to get food later on. Franks work extremely well with a lot of other civilizations, especially from a pocket position in a team game. With a Hun player on their team, they can also benefit from 20% faster stable creation speed, and if teamed with a Persian player, they will also benefit from extra damage to archer units, for the ultimate powerful cavalry combination. Thanks for watching this week's Zero to Hero video. Hopefully you found it useful, and as you could probably tell, it's a lot shorter than others as well, and that's because the Franks really are quite a straightforward civilization. They make a lot of very easy choices, as the paladins really are just too strong to ignore. And for the purposes of this tutorial series, that's pretty much all you need to know. So hopefully you found it useful anyway, and if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a little like below. As usual guys, I've been Zach, and I'll see you guys next time.